Hi, welcome to Game Talk, the show where we talk about games. I'm Max.
And I'm Kaila. Today we just wanted to talk about games in general and about what our vision for the show is going to be. We don't want it to be just Max and I sitting here talking about games because there are a lot of shows that already do that really, really well. What we do want to do though is create a community that we can all get involved with, a place where gamers or just people in general can get together, create events, swap cards, play some games, or just talk story.
Right, and that's why the first thing we did before we even shot the first episode of the show was we made a Facebook group, because we really want there to be an easy way for people in Kauai to get together and game. Because it can be really hard, like if you don't already know about one of these gaming communities, it can be really hard to find one or to meet other like-minded people who want to do the same stuff that you want to do, who want to play the games you want to play or watch the movies you want to play or whatever. And like in bigger cities, there's all kinds of Facebook groups and subreddits and websites and stuff like that specifically for that purpose. But we don't have that on Kauai. I'm sure, I know I looked when I first moved back to Kauai, I looked for gaming groups online. I couldn't really find any.
Yeah, it's a small island, which is fine, but for some reason being smaller, for some reason just doesn't make it easier to get together about those kinds of things. It's almost a little harder to find people that are into that kind of thing.
And you would think that it being smaller would mean there's just less of us, there's just less nerds that want to play games, but there's totally not. Like there's plenty of us, we just can't find each other.
Right.
So if you're in high school or whatever, you meet the people that go to school with you. But if you're an adult, it's like, what do you do?
Right, exactly.
So yeah, we want there to be a place where not only is there a show where people that happen to be watching TV or browsing YouTube can maybe learn that they're interested in games when they didn't know that before. Because that's how I got into board games, was I just caught a YouTube video about it. I didn't know all these hobby board games existed.
Right.
And I was like, that sounds cool, I'm gonna get into that. But also, people can watch the show and then get on the Facebook group, and then now there's a place where you can go where you can post like, hey, I'm a DM looking for a group. Oh, hey, I'm a player looking for a DM. Let's exchange numbers, And I think especially with big things like D&D, Call of Cthulhu, Magic, like Street Fighter tournaments, stuff like that. Like you need a ton of people, and it can be hard to organically find a dozen people, to put together a tournament. So I think that's what we're trying to accomplish.
I mean, and also, talk about some of our favorite games as well. As you can see here, we have quite a bit of a collection going on. Not only do we want to talk about the games, but we also want to create an environment where people can get together and actually play the games that they really want to play with people that want to play it with them. Yeah,
because I think, it's like with video games, it can be really easy to go on Xbox Live or go on PlayStation Network or whatever and find just randos to get match made with. And that can be fun, but it's not nearly as fun as like in the old days when you would go over to your friend's house and play Nintendo with them,
Right.
And I really like in-person gaming. And hopefully, people that are interested in gaming will see this show and it'll help them get in contact with each other. But hopefully also people who maybe aren't interested in gaming will see this show and say, hey, that sounds like something cool. We'll have like a different game or a different, if a new Magic set drops or a new expansion for a board game or a video game drops or a new D&D book drops, we'll like review it and talk about it on the show. And hopefully we'll be able to have a long-running series out of that, and that'll keep the community aspect of it going too.
Right.
So.
Another cool idea we were thinking about too is maybe, doing some live footage of us actually playing some of these games, or some pre-recorded, little get-togethers with some of our friends who are into the same games, or maybe even some new people who feel like joining us and play some of them and kind of give you a little bit of a taste of what the game is about too.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of just pitched it to Kaila as like just I thought it was like a silly little one-off idea. I was like, how would you feel about maybe just once or twice, like for special occasions, doing like a live stream? She was like, yes, let's do it. Let's make a list of games. Like we're gonna live stream all the time. So I think that's gonna be part of the show. Is we're gonna do, once we can get our setup up and running, we'll do semi-regular live streams. I think part of the reason we wanted to do this episode in particular is because for one, we want to tell you what is this show, but for two, I kind of want to describe like why we like gaming, what makes gaming cool, why in a world where you can have a computer that renders 3D graphics that look as real as reality, would you want to sit down with these pieces of cardboard and play pretend with your friends? And I think, and it's I might have to revoke my nerd card when I say this, but I think socializing is the reason. It's
I was just gonna say.
It's really gratifying. Not that I generally like hanging out with big groups of people, or even small groups of people a lot of the time. It is really gratifying every once in a while to sit around the table with your friends, talk about stuff that you're mutually interested in, eat, break bread together, and do something that's fun together. And for some people that can be on Sunday when you watch the football game, but that's not for me, no. But it can be really fun to sit around and play a board game.
There's just something really satisfying about sitting down with some of your closest friends or even with some random people and really beating their face at a game. I'm a really competitive player sometimes, and sometimes, people don't like that. But when you're sitting down face to face playing these kinds of games, it could be just so fun, even if you lose. Like Munchkin, for example, is a great game about betraying your friends. I think it even says so on the box.
I think so, yeah. And I'll tell you what, if there was, kill the monsters, steal the treasure, stab your buddy.
Yeah.
If there was like an online version of Munchkin, that game would suck. It would not be fun at all. It would just be like brief descriptions of things happening. But it's what happens between turns where you and your friend are swearing at each other or begging with it, pleading with each other, please, don't screw me over. I know you have that wandering monster card. That's what makes Munchkin fun.
Or the bargaining chip too, tell you what, I won't screw you over if you let me do this, or if you give me this loot.
Yeah.
One of my friends, Bella, was really good about when it was your turn, she would add monsters to the table and then tell you, do you want help for half the loot?
The old protection money racket.
Yeah, exactly. Like she caused the problems, but ultimately her goal was loot in the end.
Yeah, that's a classic Munchkin strategy that will piss off everyone at the table that isn't you.
Every time.
And I think even video games, Kaila and I are both big video game players. At least for me, a multiplayer experience is a lot more satisfying if I can look at the actual human that I'm playing with. When I've been getting into Pokemon Shield on my Switch lately, and I play online sometimes, and it is fun. It's fun to have Pokemon battles online, but I can't see the person that I'm playing with, and so it's just it feels the same as a trainer battle. Or like a battle against a computer opponent, except they're really good. But it's just, I'm sitting here playing a game and then stuff happens to me. And then I sit here and play a game and then stuff happens to me. Whereas I remember when I was a kid, man, I would go over to my friend's house and bring my Game Boy and bring my link cable. And you're face to face, and I'm watching him and it's much more exciting.
Yeah, there's just something about, playing with some people behind a screen that sometimes takes the fun out of things. Magic, for example. So now you can play Magic the Gathering Arena online on your phones or on a computer or something. And it's really cool because it makes collecting the cards that you're actually looking for and creating the decks that you want a little bit easier. But the downside to it is the social aspect that made Magic just doesn't exist anymore. You play against a person and there are very limited communication. There are some emotes you can send out or whatever, like nice or oops or sorry or whatever. But for all intents and purposes, you might as well just be playing against an NPC. Sometimes a really smart and infuriating NPC, but at the same time, you don't get to see who you're playing with, and you don't get to do the things that you normally would get to do in a game like Magic, which is, the psychological aspect of, I'm playing blue cards. Do I have a counter? Do I not have a counter? What do you think? Do you dare? It's just not the same.
Yeah, you can't menacingly twirl your mustache while you're...
Or sit there and pick your fingernails while, ominously holding a card that's going to wipe the entire board in your hand.
Yeah. Or sit there picking your fingernails while holding a basic land
that
the other guy thinks is a card that's going to wipe the whole board.
Right, exactly.
And I think I think I would say you make friends by doing fun things in person. Like you make a friend on Xbox Live or whatever, that's just somebody that you're gonna play with occasionally. Like, but you make real friends that you do non-gaming related stuff with through gaming. You know, like I met Kaila at a Magic tournament, and that was how we became friends. And look, now we're hosting a TV show together.
Yeah.
If you're a nerd like us and you're interested in gaming, playing games is a great way to meet other nerds that are into gaming.
Also, it's not just for nerds. Like, you know, let's not use the N-word. Games make really great icebreakers. Games are also great for other social interactions. You know, say you invite a bunch of buddies over or acquaintances that you want to get to know better. To like have some drinks, eat some food or whatever, why not throw a game in the middle of that? And it doesn't have to be something super complicated or super intensive and kind of brain racking, especially, you know, if there are adult beverages involved, like Munchkin or Betrayal at House on the Hill. There are games like these overrated games, or there are games like New Phone Who Dis or What Do You Meme that are they kind of have that Cards Against Humanity sort of feel, where you all take turns judging what is the funniest or best fitting card to another card that you get to pick. Overrated, for example, is probably one of my new favorites when it comes to drinking games, because it kind of has that Yelp review sort of feel. You can give ratings for places like your mom's house, or like you could put wild cards in there, or you can Walmart. The ratings for Walmart can be freaking hilarious sometimes. Games make really great icebreakers, and it doesn't have to be something super nerdy or super intense. It could be something as simple as that, or even Unstable Unicorns, although Unstable Unicorns is definitely unstable. I probably wouldn't recommend that at a drinking game.
But yeah, probably not but if it's a party with non-gamers that aren't drinking, I think most people can wrap their heads around and enjoy Unstable Unicorns. And if you already know how to play, then you can't. I've done scientific research on this topic. If you already know how to play Unstable Unicorns, you can successfully play it while drunk. And I'm glad you brought up Cards Against Humanity, because actually I was going to point to that as an example of, like, everyone likes Cards Against Humanity. It's kind of like the Star Wars of tabletop games, because, like, if you're a sci-fi nerd, you like Star Wars, obviously. If you're not a sci-fi nerd, you probably still like Star Wars. Like, everybody likes Star Wars. My dad doesn't know what Blade Runner is, loves Star Wars, you know? And Cards Against Humanity is kind of like that, where it's like, you don't have to be, you know, if you weren't in the chess club in high school, if you're not watching board game reviews on YouTube every day, you probably still, if you are a grown-up and you have been to a party, you probably have played Cards Against Humanity and had a blast. And there are a lot of games that are like that. There's, as you can see, there's a ton of games. We literally ran out of room on this table for games. And this obviously doesn't even represent a fraction of the games that exist.
And I even have more at home too.
There's definitely, like, there's a game for you out there. And maybe if you like it, there's a slightly more complex game that you would also enjoy. And maybe if you like that one, there's a slightly more complex game that you would also enjoy. And next thing you know, you're playing Dungeons and Dragons and Twilight Imperium and you're going to Super Smash Brothers tournaments once a month. And
being a nerd.
Yeah. Like you said, games are an icebreaker. I think part of what we want to do with this show is, like, break the ice with you. Like, if any one of these catches your interest, you know, go online, Google it, go on our Facebook group, ask us about it. And who knows, maybe we could be sitting at the same table next month, you know?
Another interesting idea too is maybe putting up some polls online or on our Facebook group or something, probably asking you guys to suggest what kind of games you actually want us to talk about too. You know, highest voter gets to pick the topic.
Yeah, I actually considered doing that for this episode, but at time of recording, our Facebook group has 4 members, and one of them's Kaila and one of them's me. So I was like, well, that's not going to be much of a poll. I could just text the other 2 people and be like, hey man, what do you want to see on the show? So
we have more than us on our Facebook group.
Yeah, Bree and another friend of mine. Now we just have to get our first subscriber that's not someone we know in real life. But yeah, that's definitely something I would want to do in the future, is once we get enough people to actually get like a meaningful aggregate from a vote, is yeah, I would definitely want to have polls. What game should we live stream? What product should we review on the show? You know, what just general gaming topics. I mean, it doesn't even have to be, we don't even have to review a product. You know, we're definitely not getting paid to do this, so we don't have to review something that you can go buy. We can talk about issues, you know, like specific topics. Like one thing that comes to mind, why aren't there more girls that play games? I think that's something that bears talking about, because it's definitely not that games are just a boy thing,
Right, yeah.
which is what people have just assumed for a really long time.
Also, hashtag not sponsored by
Yeah,
any of these guys.
yeah. Actually, this is you know that we're legit about that, because this is a community access television show, and so I will lose my status as a television producer if anybody gives me money to make a show for them. So we're definitely doing this for free, because my livelihood
For
depends upon it.
funsies. This is fun.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that would be cool to every once in a while spice it up and talk about like an issue or a concept rather than a specific thing. I really hope that this will lead to more in-person gaming events, because it has been, I can't remember the last time I played in a Super Smash Bros. Tournament. I probably am not even good at Super Smash Bros. Anymore. It's been like since December or January since I played in a Magic tournament. We're in a D&D group together, thankfully, but if this group fell apart, I don't know where I would look to find another group. You know, I would just have all these probably close to $500 worth of D&D books and dice and stuff that would just sit in my house and not be read. And so I'm really hoping that we can lay the foundation here to have more events. Like, I hope people will watch this show, not necessarily because I want to be like internet famous and have a bunch of people watching my show, but because then hopefully there will be more gaming events that we can go to and play in, you know?
Yes, that would be so nice. It would be so fun.
You know, we're trying to sell people on the idea that this is a fun hobby. Kaila, how did you initially get into this hobby? Like, is this a new thing for you? Have you been doing it for a long time? Like, what brought you into the world of gaming?
The person that really got me into gaming, I would say, is my dad. He had a computer. Yes, it started with a computer game. And the first game that I ever played, and I remember this very vividly, I was maybe 7, 8, pretty young, probably too young to be playing Duke Nukem on the computer. I didn't understand anything that was going on, but I loved shooting those aliens. It was so fun, which is probably, you know, where the almost violently competitive nature that I have when it comes to games in general comes from, is from starting off with games like that. And then I just kept going, you know, I played everything on the computer. At first I didn't even know board games were a thing, aside from Monopoly or Scrabble, or, you know, games that I would never really be interested in, because it didn't have the fun social aspect that I like now, and it also didn't have guns and aliens and, you know, things that you could shoot and kill in the game. But yeah, it went from Duke Nukem to Doom. I played the old Tomb Raider games, you know, the badly rendered ones.
Yeah, with the pointy boobs.
Yep, triangle boobies. Yeah, and ever since then, it's just been something I've always been into. I've always played video games, console games, computer games. Then I got into card games, board games, because I was like, you know, let's take a break away from the screen. Yeah, that's kind of what led me to where I am right now when it comes to gaming. What about you? What brought you into it?
So, similar situation. I was like 3 years old, so my dad would have been like 27, and he was playing Super Mario Brothers one day on his Nintendo, and he was like, hey, check this out, do you want to play? And I picked that controller up, and I metaphorically never put it down. Like, I was hooked, man. My dad used to try to play catch with me and stuff, and I was like, yeah, okay, this is cool, catch, throw, let's go do something else. He gave me that Super Mario Brothers, I was like, oh, this is my life now. And I had a similar experience with board games as you did, which is, you know, before the internet was a big thing, all you knew about board games was what you could buy at Walmart, which is like what I like to call mom games, because they're like the games that you play with your mom. You know, like Scrabble. I used to play Scrabble with my mom all the time. Clue, that was one. Me and my mom and my grandma would sit around and play Clue. Boggle. That was a game that I played once and never again because it sucked even to play with your mom.
I've never even heard of that.
It's not super fun. I mean, it's beats a sharp stick in the eye, but it's not Betrayal at House on the Hill, you know?
Yeah.
But so I was real into video games, computer games, stuff like that. You know, I had the original Nintendo, and then like that was like the only expensive thing in my house when I was a kid is like the newest game system. Like always had to have the newest game system. We had a beater car. I didn't have all that many clothes, you know. Sometimes, well, we eat a lot of Hamburger Helper, but man, I want that new Super Nintendo. I want that N64. I want that Wii, you know. And I liked to play board games because I liked the idea of, for one, it being abstract, so your imagination is a lot more involved. But for two, I liked being able to sit at the table and look across the table at my mom and see her looking at her Scrabble tiles and know she's like, I'm screwed, I don't have the letters I need, you know? The social interaction aspect of it, even then I liked it, but I mistakenly thought there wasn't a lot of potential to them because I thought board games were games like Monopoly, sorry, Clue.
Yahtzee.
And then, yeah, oh God, Yahtzee. Yahtzee's not even a game you play. Yahtzee is a game that happens and you write down what happens. But one day I was just cruising on YouTube watching videos about video games, and I saw this channel where these guys review board games. And I was like, how does that work? How are you going to review board games? Like, everybody's played Battleship. We know how it works. And they're talking about games like Ticket to Ride and Settlers of Catan and like Space Trucker. And so I'm like, I've never heard, what is this? And man, guys, there are a lot more board games out there than chess and checkers. Like,
I know, I same here. Like, I couldn't even believe it. Pretty similarly, you know, I like to watch like a lot of Minecraft videos. So upon, you know, scrolling through my YouTube feed, one day I saw, who were the guys? I think it was Tabletop. I saw a Tabletop video and I fell in love with these guys. They were amazing. They showed me games that I never even knew existed. You know, games like Munchkin and Betrayal at House on the Hill, and you know, games that I don't even have here. Like, oh, there was this really cool one that I've always wanted to try. I think it was called something to do with. It was a morbid game, which I'm into morbid things. That might have been it. With like the really gothic-y style
and
artwork.
The clear cards.
Yes,
yeah.
That game looked really great. I think that was probably one of the first videos that I saw. But yeah, I then went on a craze and bought all these board games, and we have fun playing a lot of them. And I only like play with people at my house at the moment, like my roommates and you know, my other half. Our favorite game is Villainous at the moment, because my sister always wins, so she always wants to play it. Yeah. But yeah, same thing. I had no idea all these games existed.
Yeah, that's like, it's a really well-kept secret, you know, like, even if you're not a gamer, like, you know what an Xbox is, right? Everybody knows what a PlayStation is. Everybody knows who Mario is. Nobody knows what Mansions of Madness is unless you're one of us, you know? Like, but yeah, it's this whole big thriving world with this whole big healthy community behind it that nobody knows about. And I feel like that's a shame because, for one thing, a lot of these games you can't play by yourself. And the games that you can play by yourself, it's obviously not nearly as fun. It's like solitaire versus poker, you know?
Yeah.
But also, the more people like them, the healthier and more robust the community will get, and the more games there will be. You know, like right now, I think people are calling it like a board gaming renaissance, because of YouTube and stuff like that, people have been getting more into board games, and so a lot more are being made. But like, I want to see even more be made, man. You know, I want there to be like, man, they got like 8 different channels. ESPN has like 8 channels. They have 8 different channels where you can watch people throw a ball around in a grass field. And don't get me wrong, sports are fine, but I mean, I want there to be 8 different channels about people playing video games, or I want there to be 8 different channels about D&D, you know?
Yep, that would be really nice.
Or I want there to be enough tabletop role-playing game players that we can play TTRPGs that aren't D&D. You know, because, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm sorry, I love you, baby. D&D is my favorite game of all time, but I've played briefly, I've played Call of Cthulhu, it's awesome. I've played Vampire the Masquerade, it's awesome. I've listened to loud-ass people play Star Wars, it sounds awesome. But like, we're spending our money on D&D. We can't afford to then also buy all the books for all these other games. Mm-hmm. But man, I would love to join a White Wolf game, you know? Mm-hmm. So, you, watching at home, buy the Vampire the Masquerade books, and then invite me to your game so I can play Vampire Masquerade.
It also would be nice to, you know, kick somebody else's butt at, you know, Magic or Tekken besides, you know, my other half.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, come to think of it, I've never actually played him. Like, I've played against you a bunch, and I've heard you talking about whipping on him a bunch. And you definitely beat me every time you and I play, but I don't think I've ever played a game against your other half.
Is it? Watch out for Is It.
Oh, yeah?
Just straight up counterburn. Gutter Snipe and Ionizes are a nasty combo.
Oh, man. Yeah, it sounds like a deck that's not fun to play against.
I mean, yeah, play a green deck.
Yeah, so...
Actually, the deck that I have over here is my mono black Liliana commander deck.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the other commander deck I have is mono black also.
Yeah. Sir Conrad, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which Liliana do you have?
Almost all of them.
I mean, which one's your commander?
The one that is my commander, Liliana Heretical Healer. She is this is from the Origins set. She's a creature card to start with, but then when you meet certain conditions, she flips into Liliana Defiled Necromancer. Said that right? Liliana Defiant Necromancer.
I was thinking that's a little risque for a Magic card, Defiled Necromancer.
Yeah, she's really cool because she's a creature, and if you're playing mono black, you can totally throw her in the graveyard and just bring her back later, which is why mono black is probably one of my favorites, you know.
Yeah.
Obviously, I play a Necromancer in my D&D game, so she's obviously, you know, my waifu and my inspiration for everything that comes to do with D&D and Magic.
I was actually talking to, at 7-Eleven I ran into a guy that we've played Magic with before, and I mentioned, but we don't know him that well, and I mentioned your name to him. Mm-hmm. I told him, I was like, I'm hosting this this game talk show with Kaila, and he was like, Kaila, do I know her? I was like, yeah, she's the girl that collects Liliana. And he was like, oh yeah, I know who you're talking about, like right away. Like, yeah, we all know how much you love Liliana.
She's my favorite.
Yeah.
She's my bae.
Liliana, best girl.
Mm-hmm. Spirit animal.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for watching our show. Check us out on Facebook, which is at...
It's at the URL at the bottom of your screen. I believe it's Kawaii, no, I believe it's facebook.com/groups/Kawaii Game Talk, but I will go ahead and confirm exactly what it is, and I'll type it in here when I edit this video. But I think that's what it is. It's something, facebook.com Kawaii Game Talk. I don't remember exactly what's in the meat in that sandwich is. But we also, our show is on YouTube. It's on the Hawaii Kawaii Community Television YouTube channel. You can also, if you live on Kauai or if you're visiting, you can catch it on Channel 54, on cable Channel 54. And in the future, when we get more live stuff up and running, you'll be able to check us out on all the places you'd expect, Twitch TV, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, those kinds of things. Yeah. So
we'll make sure the links are available on our Facebook page.
Yes, when they exist.
Yes.
Don't look for us on Twitch right now because we're not there yet. But definitely, yeah, check us out on Facebook. Join the group. You can send us a message. Let us know if you're looking for a game group to join, or let us know if you're looking for a recommendation on a board game or video game to play, or let us know if you've got an opinion on games that you want us to talk about on the show. We like we mentioned before, our Facebook group has 4 members right now.
Be nice to have more.
Yeah, it would be cool to have a reason to actually post stuff to the group for one, because right now the 2 people that aren't us are people we know in real life and we just talk to. But for another thing, we definitely have time to answer your questions. So yeah, get at us. Tell us what you want from us, and we'll probably do it.
All right. Peace out.
Bye.
Yeah.